Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Hyperconscious Podcast. Alan, what is hyperconscious?
Once you understand why something is the way that it is, now you have the power to change it. Great conversations with great people and great questions are the keys to the kingdom of unlocking your consciousness.
Every single action that you do starts as a thought. When you control the way you think, you will control the way you act, and you will control the way you live. That is hyperconscious. Geographically. This is cool. So I would say make sure that pretty face is showing.
Yes, true.
They're going to want to see that thing. They're going to want to see that thing, Alan. That face. You good?
Ready?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of the Hyperconscious Podcast. We hope you enjoyed our latest Small Talks episode where we talked all about motivation. Thank you again to Bianca for the suggestion. Today we are going to do a Scratching the Surface episode on outgrowing your environment. Monique suggested it.
Thank you again, Monique, for your topic suggestion. Also, friendly reminder to go to the hyperconsciouspodcast.com, click on Join Your Mailing List. It's right at the top. Type in your email, and you're going to get 3 Hyperconscious morning minutes from us every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Guys and girls, your days need to be awesome if you want to have an awesome life. Let us be in your ear and kickstart your days right. There have been a lot of you that are signing up. Get after it.
Yes.
So going into this next episode, outgrowing your environment. This is something that I think so many people struggle with. I know that I have a lot. Kevin probably hasn't struggled with it quite as much, and we'll get into why that is. Regarding those 5 buckets, should we start there?
Yes, we can start there. So if you listened while we were in Florida, I think we talked a little bit about the 5 buckets, but the 5 buckets are basically a way for you to categorize the people in your life.
Yeah.
Right? So first bucket is nostalgia.
Yep.
I'll let you do it. You're better at explaining them. I'm in a silly mood today.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing. Yes. Okay, so if you picture, for those of you who are on audio here, picture progress toward your goals and dreams at the top of the page. And then there's a line going straight down the middle, and then it breaks off into branches of 5 different buckets. On the far left, you've got the nostalgia bucket. This is your old friends and family. These are people you grew up around, like when you were a kid. Middle school, high school, that kind of stuff. Next is your maintenance friends. These are potentially friends in college, different colleagues at work, people who aren't as growth-oriented as you, or maybe they're not as dedicated for their dreams, but you still care deeply about them. The next bucket, this is actually something Kevin came up with, was the mentee bucket. This is the one straight smack dab in the middle. These are people that are not as far along as you are on a particular journey, but they are growth-oriented, and they're looking to you specifically to help guide them on their journey. We all need mentors. This is the mentee bucket.
And that's the reason it's in the middle, is because you kind of get the best of both worlds. When you are practicing and you're teaching, the things that you're learning, they're more concrete for you. You're going to learn them better, and you're going to be better equipped. So that's why it's in the middle, the direct middle.
Exactly. And then the next bucket, you've got your dream bucket. This is your peak performance partners. Excuse me, I had a little burp there.
Growth bucket.
Oh, the growth bucket. Yeah, dream team bucket. So this has your dream team, your peak performance partners. These are people that are kind of plus or minus 10% on a given journey for you. So for an example for that, Kevin is when it comes to podcasting, we're both in this bucket together. Fitness, same deal, So the next bucket is your mentor bucket. This is the wisdom bucket. So we were podcasting with Steve Ryder in Scottsdale, Arizona.
Yes, that was beautiful.
Yeah, and he is nearly 60 years old, and he's far, far, far ahead of us in basically all facets of life.
Yes.
Maybe other than fitness. And so that's a good point I just want to make real quick. These buckets are predicated on the arena. In other words, if we were talking fitness with Steve Ryder, he wouldn't be in the wisdom bucket. We would be in his wisdom bucket, okay? But when it comes to life, he's clearly in the wisdom bucket. And the reason I reference that episode is not only so you go and listen to it because it's such a good one.
Shameless plug.
Oh yeah, totally. But Steve mentioned it on that episode. We created that bucket. He said, Alan, don't forget about the wisdom bucket, because we were at Brendan Burchard's event in Phoenix, Arizona, and these, to give credit where it's due, these buckets, there were 3 of them that Brendan Burchard had. So I'm pretty sure he had the first one, the maintenance bucket, and then the growth bucket, but we kind of expanded on it.
Yeah.
And so the amount of progress that you're going to make toward your dreams, you've all heard the quote many times on this podcast, you're the sum average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Here's the thing. The progress you make towards your dreams is going to be predicated on how much weight are in each of these buckets. So if you were to take your top 10 closest associations, in other words, the 10 people you care about most deeply in this world, and inherently you care what they think of you, because if you care about them, you just do, that is going to be a way to kind of categorize whether or not you're making progress consistently towards your goals.
Okay, so we just went through all of that. Now maybe you're thinking to yourself, what does it mean to outgrow my environment? What does that actually mean? Well, I'll speak for myself, but I know Alan has the same experience. We have a lot of people that reach out and say, you know, my friends aren't necessarily into what I'm into. My family doesn't understand why I'm doing what I'm doing. My intimate relationship isn't working as well as it possibly could because I'm going in one direction and my partner is going in another direction. Now, this doesn't make it's not anything personal, but you tend to make things personal when there's somebody else involved. If the people that you're spending the most amount of time with aren't bringing you closer to your goals, then I would suggest that you reallocate that time and spend it with people who are. Like, there's a reason people drift apart. It's because you lose stuff in common. Now, this is something, again, guys, I'm going to be as transparent as possible. This is something that I've been going through. I don't spend a lot of time with people anymore, other than Alan, other than Matt. Really, that's basically it.
Yeah.
You know? Because I don't have a lot in common with the people that I used to hang out with. And that's nothing against them. I still love those people. I still want to be there for those people. I still want to be friends with them. But if you could only hang out with one person, if I said you can hang out with this person who is doing the same things you are, they have the same goals, they have the same aspirations, you have all this in common, or you can hang out with this person who is an awesome person, they're funny, they like to hang out, but they're not going to necessarily bring you closer to your goals. Who are you going to pick? I have to pick the person who's going to bring me closer to my goals. I'm in this to win it.
Right.
And that's the only available option. The only available option is for me to be successful.
This is going to happen regardless, too, because I wrote on a flashcard here, the law of attraction. I want to talk a little bit about how the law of attraction really works. So it's interesting because, okay, so I'm obviously trying to succeed at podcasting. So is Kevin. Remember the quote one of my mentors said to me that I say on this podcast a lot: you cannot schedule innovation.
Yes.
So innovation is getting better at its core. And every time Kevin and I get together, just for reference here, we end up talking about podcasting. We end up talking about fitness. We end up talking about helping people, right? It's natural to talk about those things because all of those things are the things we're doing on a daily basis. So real quick, if you have a specific goal or dream, and you know, we all kind of know on this podcast, you reverse engineer the goal or dream. What you're doing on a daily basis is going to be predicated on the life you want to live, the life that you've designed, the vision. Okay, so if you are what you repeatedly do, which we all are, what you do is going to be predicated on where you want to go. Therefore, what I wrote on this flashcard is common goals equal common hobbies. Like attracts like. So you're going to inevitably be around people who like what you like. And what you like is probably based on where you're headed. Now, if you change your destination, in other words, your vision, guess what? Now your daily behaviors need to change to accommodate that. Now your habits and your hobbies are going to change with that. And therefore, you're going to inevitably attract more people into your life that care about those things.
I wanted to bring this to the listeners too. So you and I have been spending a lot of time together because we have so much more going into the podcast, right? And when we're together, even if we're not podcasting, like even if we're not in front of these microphones, even if we're not in the studio, we could be in your room, we could be on the way to get food, we could be whatever.
We could be in your room.
Like, again, why'd you have to make it weird?
No,
I'm kidding. We're always talking about the same stuff.
Yeah.
It's always how do we get better? It's always, what realizations have you had this week?
Yeah. What are you learning?
Yeah.
How do you help more people?
It's always like that.
Right.
And it's like Matt knows at this point now that when I say I'm going to be home at 8, I could be home at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
It just depends on what's happening.
Exactly.
But see, the difference is maybe Matt isn't a podcaster. And for those of you who don't know, Matt's my best friend, my roommate. He's not a podcaster, but he has big goals and big dreams, which are forcing him to level up. So we have so much in common still. Also, I lift with him every day at the gym. So it's like, I don't think the people have to necessarily be doing the same thing you're doing, but spit all over the mic. But when you run out of things in common, that is just going to expand the contrast. And it's harder to allocate time to that, especially when you're busy.
Yeah.
When you have one day, say you have one day off, like to do whatever you want. Dude, some days I just want to be alone.
Yeah.
Because I'm always trying to get better. I'm always talking to people who are trying to get better. I'm always trying to make these distinctions and learn these lessons. And, so if you're going through this, the biggest takeaway I want you to get from this episode is, number one, it doesn't make you a bad person. Number two, it definitely doesn't make anybody else a bad person. All it means is you guys are going, you're going your separate ways. You're not growing in the same direction or in the same trajectory.
And maybe you don't want the same things.
Yeah.
That's the real difference, is you don't value the same things.
Yeah, I think, so I know at the beginning you said it's something that you struggled with, but maybe I didn't struggle with
as much.
Do you want to go into that?
I do, actually. I'm glad you brought that up. So the reason why Kevin
this
didn't...
is what I do.
Right.
I put, just for those listening and watching, I put chocolate milk in my coffee. So that's, chocolate syrup. So it is kind of chocolate milk. I'm happy to get back on the mics, man. I'm in a great mood today.
Yeah, this is good. This is good. So the reason why I said that Kevin doesn't struggle with this quite as much, and to be honest, I grew up, and I think that one of my better gifts is connecting with other human beings. And I think that I've built a lot of really strong relationships in those other buckets, the nostalgia bucket and the old friend bucket. And there's nothing wrong with that. The problem is, though, and this is true for you as it is for me, the more you fill up those other buckets on the left of the spectrum, the more you're going to have to fill the other ones. So with Kevin, he didn't have as many people in those other buckets, so therefore he didn't need as many mentors and dream team members to start making progress toward his dreams. So the thing is like, if you were to write out a list of the top 10 people that you care the most about emotionally, and then categorize them in these buckets, you're going to start to see that why maybe you're not making as much progress as you want to make, and maybe a small shift in the amount of time that you allocate. The thing that I want to make very clear is that I care so deeply about all the people from my past. And when you set new visions and goals for yourself, which if you listen to this podcast, you're obviously doing, this is going to be part of the growing pains. You're inevitably going to spend less time with people that don't have similar goals and dreams, and that's just par for the course. But that doesn't mean that you can't still make a proactive effort to keep some attention and caring and love in each of those buckets.
One of the best ways that I understand this, one of the best ways that I can present this is, if your biggest goal is to get in the best shape possible, it's going to be very hard for you to hang out with people who do not care about health and fitness.
Exactly.
It doesn't make them bad people. It just means that their goals are different. And by default, if you were to hang out with somebody like Alan and myself, right? If you were spending time with us when we're always talking about fitness, we're always trying to figure out, okay, when am I going to work out? When are you going to work out? Are we going to link up? We're always
after this podcast,
right? Some of us were up at a reasonable time today at the gym. That's just me, little jab there. But you're far more likely to get to your goals,
right?
And another thing that did we talk about this? We talked about it a little bit, I think. When you're using the 5 buckets,
right?
If you're hanging out with people that are in this nostalgia bucket and the maintenance bucket, and you're looking for a job, imagine the difference between the opportunities that are going to present themselves between that side of the bucket and the growth and wisdom side of the bucket.
Exactly. Bring that more practical,
right?
Because I'm with you 100%.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, and again, this is nothing personal about anybody and their careers. I know some people that don't make a lot of money that are happier than anybody else doing what they're doing. So that's not what this is. But say for instance, you hang out, let me see. I don't want to offend anybody, but this isn't meant to be that way. Say you hang out with somebody who works at a car wash. I know a lot of dudes that work at the car wash that I go to. They're all the nicest people ever. I actually gave one a ride to work not too long ago. They love my car, so it's a whole thing. But say you're hanging out with them and you say, hey guys, like, you know, I'm a little bit down on my luck and I'm looking for a job. Is there anything you can do for me? Okay, just imagine the opportunities that you may have there. They're probably not going to be able to present you with a next level opportunity. Say you have a millionaire mentor. Alan has several. I have one. That you said, hey, look, I'm down on my luck and I'm looking for an opportunity. Do you know anybody or do you have anything for me? What are the chances they're not going to? They know people. They know successful people. They know you're a hard worker. Like,
their network is much larger.
Yeah, and again, this isn't anything personal.
No, it's not.
But I think that
it's important to understand the value of each bucket.
Well, that and the fact that, like, you have this life, and if you're really trying to make something of yourself, you can still spend time with those people.
Right.
It's not a bad thing, but you have to pick what's going to bring you closer to your goals.
You have to understand the opportunity cost of each bucket and the value that each bucket. Bruckett.
Jerry Bruckett.
Jerry Bruckett. Who is that?
Jerry Bruckenheimer.
Right.
Bruckenheimer.
You have to understand. So, for an example, one of my millionaire mentors, I remember early in my journey when I left corporate America, probably a year and a half into entrepreneurship, I started connecting with one of my millionaire mentors who's I'm very close with now, who's absolutely killing it in fitness. But and that's kind of the value that I brought to him. I'm a mentor in fitness and health, and he's a mentor in personal finance. And I remember he saw my work ethic and he saw my, level of intelligence and dedication to learning, and he offered me a potential job as VP of sales at one of his tech companies because he was the CEO at the time. He since is not. But that's just one example. And I'm all in on my dreams, so I had to say no, thank you, as hard as that is, given my current financial situation. Back at the time, things are getting better, but the point is that the opportunities presented to you are going to be directly correlated to the network and the scope of the people in your circle. Everyone has said this, and I'm not repeating anything that people don't already know. Your network is your net worth. There's a reason people say that. It's because people that are super, super successful tend to hang out with other super, super successful people. That doesn't mean there's anything wrong with where you are or where anyone else is in your buckets. But here's the truth. Figure out where you want to be in life. In 10 years, you will arrive. We say that all the time. The only question is where. And if you don't want the results of the people in your immediate life right now, you're going to have to start to shift that. I can tell you from experience that I struggled with this a ton. And I wish that I could go back and start developing these mentors and these growth and dream team buckets sooner. And that's actually what I'm helping my clients with a lot right now.
So if you're listening and you're feeling this way, like you're outgrowing your environment and you're thinking, well, what can I do? Well, like Alan said, if you have a lot of people that are in the maintenance and nostalgia bucket, you have to even that out. You have to try to find people that want to do what you're doing, that have the mindset that you have, whether it be fitness, entrepreneurship, whatever it is. Or try to find, and try to find some mentors, because that's going to take you a long way. Now, the beautiful thing is when you get mentors and you hang around people who are trying to grow as well, then you can find mentees. And when you find mentees, these things are going to lock in. When you're teaching somebody something, it forces you to do it. You can't teach somebody something if you're not doing it. Then you're not going to feel good about yourself. You're going to feel like a fraud.
Right.
So if you're
happens to Kevin all the time.
Burned it. Checked. If you're struggling with this, something that you can do is try to expand your network. Try to get out of your comfort zone and go meet people who are doing what you're doing. Again, if it's the gym, start talking to people that are in better shape than you at the gym, or people that you see work really hard that motivate you. If it's podcasting, start reaching out to podcasters. that are doing better than you, or they're doing something that you want to do.
We just did that recently.
Yeah.
To several different people.
Everything is going to come down to you expanding your comfort zones. And when you expand your comfort zones, you expand your experiences, you expand your opportunities, you expand a lot of things. So especially if it's at home, if you live at home and you feel like you're constrained by that, you feel like you're outgrowing that, then when you're not at home, make sure you're around people that make you feel like you're growing. And sometimes that's all you can do, especially if you're stuck living at home for the next couple of years.
And technology makes this so much easier than it used to be, because I have on my flashcard here written geography versus emotional.
Geoglyphly,
exactly.
Right.
So the thing is so Kevin and I have some mentors in podcasting. We're masterminding every week with Kim and Summer. Shout out to you two.
Yes.
You are not, like, if we were to try to find successful podcasters in Uxbridge, which is where I live, Uxbridge, Massachusetts, that would be a real struggle. There's not a lot of successful podcasters around here,
right.
if I'm being honest.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with that. It just is what it is. But technology makes it really easy to connect with people that are like-minded. You can create a tribe of people. We had Lori Harder on the podcast for episode number 34. She wrote a book called A Tribe Called Bliss, and that's what this is all about. Finding a group of people that care about what you care about, that want what you want. Here's the thing. Everything that you value in life is predicated on what you're doing most often. And so we're kind of wired in this way. The more we do something, the more we inevitably get wired to do it, and then the more we fall in love with it. It's kind of like this rinse and repeat cycle. So when you set a new goal or a new intention, you're going to start falling in love with new things, and then you're going to attract other people that love those things. And I guess what we're trying to do in this is to just be more proactive about that process, and that'll really help you make more consistent progress, because the thing is, man, we all are a product of our environment to some extent.
Absolutely.
But I would rather us be our environment to be a product of us. I used to be a product of my environment. I grew up around, for example, a lot of people who drank a lot of alcohol. I now shifted that, and now a lot of my closest associations don't drink. At least they don't drink much or often. Well, it's not a coincidence.
The beautiful thing about it is when you are around certain people, you raise them, and then they raise you. So you are becoming your environment, but you're also contributing to the environment shifting and evolving and growing. And I think that's the beautiful thing about it. And it's also like when you're around people who want the best for you, they hold you accountable. And they force you to hold yourself accountable. When you're hanging out with somebody who doesn't know what you want or care what you want,
right,
they're not going to care if you get up at 4:45 and go to the gym. They're not. They're going to maybe want you to hang out with them longer because they want your love, they want your attention, and that's normal. That's understandable. But if you have goals to smash, then you got to do what you got to do. You got a dramatic reading?
I do. Yeah.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Are we past 20?
Oh yeah. No, probably right around 19 because it was running for a couple minutes before. You know what I'm saying?
19 minutes. We used to set a timer.
Yeah, the problem is my phone is attached to the thing, and I don't have your fingerprint.
Okay.
So unless I cut your finger off and,
Exactly.
So that's up to you. We can do that after if you want, or we can do it now.
Either way.
Either way is fine.
All right, so this is a excerpt from The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy.
Some would say the greatest book of all time.
Some might say that. I would definitely say that. So here we go. Associations. Who's influencing you? Birds of a feather flock together. The people with whom you habitually associate are called your reference group. According to research by social psychologist Dr. David McClelland of Harvard, your reference group determines as much as 95% of your success or failure in life. Who do you spend the most time with? Who are the people you admire most? Are those two groups of people exactly the same? If not, why not? Jim Rohn taught that we are the combined average of the 5 people we hang around the most. Jim Rohn, would say we could tell the quality of our health, attitude, and income by looking at the people around us. The people with whom we spend our time determine the conversations that dominate our attention and to which attitudes and opinions we are regularly exposed. Eventually, we start to eat what they eat, talk like they talk, read what they read, think like they think, watch what they watch, treat people how they treat people, even dress like they dress. The funny thing is, more often than not, we are completely unaware of the similarities between us and our circle of 5. How are we not aware? Because your associations don't shove you in any direction. They just nudge you ever so slightly over time. Their influence is so subtle that it's like being on an inner tube out in the ocean, feeling like you're floating in place until you look up and realize the gentle current has pushed you a half-mile down the shore, and that's away from your goals. Think of your friends who order greasy appetizers or a cocktail before dinner, and that's their routine. Hang out with them enough, and you'll find yourself grabbing for the cheese nachos and potato skins and joining them for that extra beer or glass of wine, matching their pace. Meanwhile, your other friends order healthy foods and talk about inspiring books they're reading and their ambitions in their businesses, and you begin to assimilate their behaviors and habits. You read and talk about what they talk about, you see the movies they're excited about, and you go to the places they recommend. The influence your friends have over you is subtle and can be positive or negative. Either way, the impact is incredibly powerful. Watch out. You cannot hang out with negative people and expect to live a positive life. The one thing I want to say here is that all of this is predicated on what you specifically want out of life. There is no right or wrong answers, but there are better choices and better people predicated on what you want more of.
That might be my favorite reading ever, just because it's so that's basically what we said, but obviously, it's Darren, so he knows what's up. But I think it's a good example of people that probably find themselves doing that.
Right.
They find themselves going out to eat with people that they don't have the same goals as them, and they wonder why they're not getting closer to their goals. Again, you're going to have to look yourself in the mirror and figure out, like, is this person best for my growth? Are they best for my success? Are they going to help me get where I want to go? I wrote a little haiku, not as good as Darren Hardy and The Compound Effect, but it's pretty good. So growth is mostly positive, but there is a dark side of it. It's hard to fit in if you outgrow your environment. I think Alan's got a smile on his face over there. The one takeaway, the biggest thing is I want you to understand that you're not wrong for feeling this way, and the people that you feel like you're outgrowing are not wrong. It doesn't make them bad people. It doesn't make them any less valuable. They just don't necessarily have goals that you have. You don't share that, and when you run out of things in common, like I've said a couple times, the contrast becomes more and more. If you have an opportunity to hang out with people who are going to bring you closer to your goals, I would say allocate your time properly. It doesn't mean you have to stop hanging out with those people, but allocate the necessary time to that.
I think that to second what Kevin said, it really does. There's no right or wrong answers here. We're not above this either, by the way. When I was reading that reading from The Compound Effect, I've been guilty of that for so many times. I'm still guilty of that. Like, we all care about other people, and that caring translates into our habits and our actions. And so inevitably, you're going to want to make sure that you set the standard for your own life and your own goals. So the key here is just to become more aware of who and what you're valuing, and then to make sure that that's what's best for you. Because what's best for you is what's best for the world. And what's best for you is what's best for those other people that you're not going to cut out of your life. You're just going to maybe spend a little less time with or a little more time with, depending on the situation.
I also wanted to bring to light that it seems like I'm saying this very unemotionally. So I want people to understand that, like, for the people that I have kind of distanced myself from, I don't like it. It's not enjoyable. I'm not proud of it. It's not something that I wanted to do, but it's just something that kind of happens as you expand. So I don't think it's going to be easy. I wouldn't expect it to be easy, but even if it does suck, even if it is frustrating, even if you feel lonely at times, that's a sign that you should get around people who are doing what you're doing and people that are going to help bring you closer to your goals. So we're very transparent. We always try to be transparent. It might be difficult, but it would be a lot harder to live a life that is not true to you, that you don't want to live. And you might end up somewhere you don't want to end up. So dealing with a little pain in the moment for a greater payoff is what we're all about, and that is basically what hyperconsciousness is.
I think that, so I have a super fast story that I think will really drive this home.
Definitely not going to be super fast.
Well, it'll be as fast as it can
Wow.
be. So this is a hard episode for me because I have so many strong, deep connections with people that I care about so deeply that I don't really get to spend that much time with anymore. And so I just want to tell a quick story. So after my last fitness show, which I came in 4th place.
Got smoked.
Yeah, and Kevin told me I was going to because I
Many
was
times.
dieting like
An asshole.
not well.
An asshole, we can say it.
But I had a friend of mine from college, my college roommate, Sean Levesque. Shout out to you, brother. And he said, dude, it is unbelievable how many people, I had an after party, and he's like, it's unbelievable how much like this party has changed. So back in college, I would always have parties back home at the house that I grew up in, and we would all have a good time, and there's nothing wrong with that. But when after my show, I did an after party. And he had this moment where he looked around and there was all a bunch of bodybuilders around and very health conscious fitness people and people weren't really drinking all that much. And so here's the thing. You don't have to change your environment completely. But you do, if you want something different for your life, you're going to have to change yourself. It's hard to change yourself when you're alone. There's no way I would have been able to stop my old drinking habit if I didn't get around people who don't drink that often. Kevin helped me a lot. I remember when I first started dating Jenny, at the time she barely ever drank. And I was around, there's this thing that I call the 3/5 influence. So if your top 5 people that you spend the most time with, if 3 out of 5 of those people care about fitness, I can almost guarantee you care about fitness too. I've found almost no exception to this. So if you're trying to change your life, and you want to get into fitness, or you want to stop drinking, or you want any sort of change, look at the top 5 people and see if maybe there's a tiny shift you can change. Because try to get 3 out of 5 of those people to be types of people that care about the thing that you're trying to change. And your environment is going to be a product of you. Dr. Nikki Starr said a quote that Kevin and I always reference. She said that you are both a filter and a magnet. And this is how the law of attraction really works. You're going to filter out the people that aren't like you, and you're going to be a magnet to people who are like you and want to be like you. So like attracts like, and if you want to change your life, just be more aware of the influences in your life and make sure they're serving you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we hope you enjoyed listening as much as we enjoyed recording. I appreciate you being vulnerable there, my friend. Up next, we have an episode featuring Sarah Dodd. She is at One Nomadic Dreamer on Instagram. She basically, her main goal is to travel to every country in the world. She's already been to 91 countries. She's also an author, a speaker, and a coach. She is amazing. It was a next level episode.
Yeah,
super interesting hearing her perspective. And you have anything to say about that episode?
Sarah Dodd, thank you so much for coming on the show. Yeah, she's just the ultimate fear chaser. She just no excuses, plays like a champion, and she's become such a diamond because of it.
Yeah, you guys are really going to enjoy that episode. We hope you enjoyed this one, and we will talk to you later.
Talk to you soon.
Bye. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for listening to another episode of the Hyper Conscious Podcast.
Going hyper-conscious will absolutely change your life, because if you understand why something is the way it is, now you have the power to change it. If you going hyper-conscious with us has changed your life in any way, please share this episode with one of your friends, because the more people that go hyper-conscious, the better this world's going to be for everybody.
And if you would kindly leave us a 5-star review on iTunes, that would help us make more people hyper-conscious, and we would be greatly appreciative.
Thank you.
Bye.